Sage, a blind Labrador retriever, was 12 years old when she went missing from the Cole family's home in early March 2017. As soon as they realized she was gone, they began a thorough search around their home in Boulder Creek, California, but came up empty. 10 of our neighbors joined our family in the search that lasted until late that night, said Sage's owner, Beth Cole, in an interview. Then they came back to help for several days after that. Over a week passed, but there was still no trace of their beloved pup. Soon after, the family's next-door neighbor, Dan Estrada, stumbled upon what he thought was a bag of trash in a stream. He was just 15 minutes into a hike with his friend, Vincent, and his 2 dogs, Kolsch and Barnabas. That's when he realized it was Sage. He was worried that it was too late. It wasn't until Vincent moved closer to the dog's body that the man noticed her head was moving. Realizing she was still alive, Dan sprung into action. I climbed a lot quicker, jumped into the stream and hustled over to her. I put my arms around her and kissed her and started to pet her. And she was able to hold her head up and wag her tail. Sage was immediately happy to see Dan's dogs, with whom she was already acquainted. "She walks with those guys," he said. "She picked up her head, and she's looking around for them and she's happy." Still, her rescue was far from finished. After 8 days without food, Sage was starving, exhausted, and weak. She walked maybe 10 steps, but she was moving a little bit slow, Dan said. Then she ran into a log. I realized that there was no way she was going to walk on her own. So I put the dog on my shoulders, and we made our way back up. With Sage thrown over his shoulders, Dan, Vincent, and Dan's dogs started to march the poor pup to safety. Vincent contacted the Coles as soon as he could to alert them that they were returning with Sage, and they rushed out to meet him. The reunion between Sage and her family was remarkably emotional, and they were, understandably, relieved. They were crying, they were happy, recalled Dan. We were about halfway up the mountain, and I could see that they were all teary-eyed. Even more amazingly, Dan refused to accept the $1,000 reward that the Coles had been offering to anyone who managed to find Sage. Instead, he asked that the family donate the amount to an animal rescue group. Talk about paying it forward. "Our family is so grateful to have Sage home," Beth said. "Our small town has really pulled together around this happy ending made possible by our neighbor Dan. Way to go, Dan. Thank goodness Sage was back home, safe and sound."